Hello and welcome to this special broadcast this evening because some big news that's been breaking this evening. It was meant to be a day for runaway liquor baron Vijay Mallya's extradition case to India to be finally entering its last stage. Yet Mr. Mallya has now courted a controversy. This time has come out smoking during the hearing and alleged that he met Finance Minister Arun Jaitley on the day he left the country. As a result, a massive political firefight has now erupted, with the finance minister claiming that he had not given any appointment to Mr. Mallya since 2014, but it was a chance meeting in the corridor of Parliament where Mr. Mallya was an MP and claimed that he had asked Mr. Mallya to settle his dues with the banks. Let's listen in first to what Vijay Mallya said.
I left because I had a scheduled meeting in Geneva. I met the finance minister before I left, repeated my offer to settle with the banks. I've said before, I'm a political football, and there's nothing that I can do about it. My conscience is clear. I've put almost 15,000 crores worth of assets on the table in front of the Honorable High Court of Karnataka, and I have nothing much more to say. I am certainly a scapegoat. I feel like a scapegoat.
Let's just listen into what the opposition has to say, because they've seized on the issue of Mr. Mallya claiming that he met the finance minister on a day he left the country to suggest that Mr. Jaitley had advised Mr. Mallya to leave the country. Listen in.
Well, the phrase used by Mallya today is that he met the finance minister. I know there is a clarification, but met the finance minister does not suggest a passing, casual, walking meeting inside the house of Rajya Sabha or in Parliament. I think a more categorical and a more detailed response must be had. We have had earlier photographs of Mr. Nirav Modi and others being photographed in Gujarat and in Switzerland with the Prime Minister. We have had several examples of proximity. I think given the fact that two things have been said by Mallya, one that he met, which suggests some kind of a formal structured meeting, and two, that he offered a settlement, which means some kind of a detailed structural offer. I think we need proper disclosures, full inquiries, and the moot question remains, at that time, why was no action taken in view of the knowledge of such situations in terms of allowing him to leave?
This is a fact that all of us had known earlier. Now that it has come out in the open, from the horse's mouth itself, and whatever denials that the government may issue, the fact of the matter is, even the finance minister accepts that he said something to that effect. Now it only confirms the fact that all these people who have looted our public money by taking loans from the banks and absconded from the country, not one of them has happened to leave the country without the knowledge of the government.
Okay, those were of course the views of Sitaram Yechuri and Abhishek Manu Singhvi. The opposition is seizing on this moment. Rahul Srivastav has just spoken to Arun Jaitley. Let's find out what the finance minister has told him. The opposition, Rahul, says the finance minister must come clean on the nature of his meeting with Vijay Mallya. What exactly did Arun Jaitley tell you when you spoke to him a short while ago?
Rajdeep, the finance minister is saying that the meeting that Mr. Mallya is referring to is not a structured meeting nor a substantive meeting. What the finance minister is saying is that on the night, apparently later when it became clear that he has fled the country, Mallya had come to Parliament, and being a Rajya Sabha member of Parliament, though his term was about to end very soon, he accosted the finance minister there was this brief 30-40 second chat between them in which he said that he wanted to settle. But the finance minister had very categorically told him that this is an issue, you go to the bankers if you want to settle. What the finance minister is saying that he had already bluffed his way through for a very long time with everybody with offers of settlement, and that is why nobody wanted to meet him or give him any kind of endorsement as far as a government intervention is concerned. Since he had starved the bank with any kind of response, the banks within 2 days were going to move the Supreme Court, a consortium of 17 banks, for 9,000 crores worth of recovery. He was trying to create a smokescreen by trying to create a diversion that he's talking to the government. And there was a brief meeting. Now, if that is the meeting Vijay Mallya is talking about, Rajdeep, and that's the meeting that Finance Minister Arun Jaitley is saying, I will like to introduce here that there was a large number of journalists who were waiting right there, and I was one of them who saw this brief interaction take place. Is Mr. Mallya talking about this meeting, or was there any other structured meeting? The finance minister says this was the only meeting. We also know that, Rajdeep, that day we were told by the Prime Minister's office that he was trying to meet the Prime Minister also, but since the schedule of the Prime Minister was packed in Parliament, there were several adjournments, there was no meeting, and a meeting was denied.
Now, correct me, when did Vijay Mallya leave the country? We are talking about February of 2016, am I right?
Rajdeep, Mr. Mallya fled the country on March 2nd, if my memory serves right, and that day was the 1st of March when it was the presentation of the finance bill, I recall, had happened inside the Rajya Sabha. The finance minister was coming out of the Rajya Sabha after presenting the finance bill, and there was a ruckus in Parliament and there was an adjournment, because of which the finance minister, who was inside the Rajya Sabha, was walking back to the room of the finance minister at the entrance to the what is called the lobby area. There the meeting took place. Now Mr. Vijay Mallya has to clarify that is this the meeting he is talking about? Because the finance minister is saying that this was the only meeting which was neither substantive nor structured.
Okay. Rahul, I've got a sense of what you're doing. Let's then go straight to our face-off this evening. Joining us now on our face-off this evening, Sambit Patra of the BJP and Sanjay Jha of the Congress. Appreciate both of you joining us here on India Today. Sambit Patra, the question directly to you, purely in perceptual terms. The fact that the finance minister was meeting Vijay Mallya, was then a member of parliament, and was facing a slew of charges that the banks were mounting against him. In October of 2015, a lookout notice circular was issued at the request of the CBI after the FIR had been registered. How am I to understand that that very evening, as Mr. Mallya says, he went on a scheduled trip to Geneva? It seems it was business as usual. There was no attempt being made to put pressure on Mr. Mallya at that moment by the government, or indeed the finance minister, to say pay up or else.
A few points over here, Mr. Rajdeep. Though Mr. Arun Jaitley, the finance minister, has already in fact written out his version, but by the same logic that Mr. Mallya throws, and that you have questioned me, that since he was present in the parliament and he was meeting Mr. Arun Jaitley, by the same logic he was meeting Mrs. Sonia Gandhi as well, because in the same parliament Sonia Gandhi was also present. In the same parliament other parliamentarians were also present. So of course, while walking across the corridors, while exchanging greetings, if we can say quote unquote meeting,
there are those who are saying it was more than PL Punia. Congress leader says it was a 2-hour meeting. It wasn't an exchange of greetings. Arun Jaitley is claiming it's an exchange of...
so how...
Let's listen into Jaitley. Let's listen into Mr. Jaitley. Just listen into Mr. Jaitley.
He paced up towards me in the Parliament building and suggested that he was going to make some offer of settlement. I did not even bother to get any detail from him. I curtly told him that he must go and make it to the bankers, because I was fully aware that he had been bluffing on several occasions in the past and had no intention of paying back the bankers' money. Besides this one sentence exchanged, where he literally barged on to me while I was walking and tried to make some offer or a suggestion which I refused to entertain. There is no question of my having ever met him, spoken to him. I even did not receive any paper from him at that time. And therefore, to convey an impression that he met me with an offer of settlement, well, if this is what he is referring to, then I'm sure this is factually not correct. He must come out with the complete facts. विजय माल्या का ये बयान कि उन्होंने मुझसे मुलाकात की और कोई सेटलमेंट का प्रस्तावना की, ये बिल्कुल असत्य है.
Okay, then now Sambit Patra, we've got the finance minister once again on record making it very clear that this was just a chance meeting, and he told very clearly, Mr. Mallya, please go to the bankers, I have nothing to do with this. But at the same time, questions will arise because PL Punya, Congress leader, is claiming a day before that he saw the finance minister have a 2-hour-long meeting with Vijay Mallya, according to him. So what am I to understand? I repeat, October 2015, there is a lookout circular of the CBI. Yes, he is a member of parliament, and on March 2, 2016, he flees on a day he claims to have met the finance minister.
No, Rajdeep, first and foremost, I don't understand whether Mr. Mallya briefs Mr. Punya. How does Mr. Punya know that there was a 2-hour-long meeting with Mr. Arun Jaitley? Was he standing outside Mr. Arun Jaitley's room as guard?
He claims he saw it.
Did he post any detective or a spy out there? Mr. Rajdeep Sardesai, you have to allow the others to speak when you have asked a question, and you have repeated your words umpteen number of times that he claims he saw it. You cannot see a person for 2 hours, Mr. Rajdeep Sardesai. You can see a person getting into or out of the room, but you would not pry over the person for 2 hours to see whether the person was spending 2 hours time with someone. So Mr. Punya in fact should in fact be questioned and interrogated as to how he was briefed by Mr. Vijay Mallya. How did Mr. Vijay Mallya say that Mr. Jaitley and he met for 2 hours? Was Mr. Vijay Mallya keeping in touch with Congress spokespersons? Number one. Now, number two, here is the letter of Mr. Vijay Mallya. If you consider whatever Mr. Mallya is saying is true, then let me pull out this letter dated 15th April 2016, which both of us have debated. In this letter, he says that this present government discriminates against Mr. Mallya because this present government's SFIO, CBI and Enforcement Directorate, all of them are pouncing on him and has made a poster boy of default out of an innocent person like Mr. Vijay Mallya. He himself says, and in one of his paragraphs he said, I have good reason to believe that this government agencies, CBI, SFIO, ED are now dealing with me in a highly prejudicial manner despite full cooperation. It has been further stated that I have personally brought the private sector into disrepute thus. So he says that this government in fact is prejudiced against him.
Let
in the last
Sanjay
paragraph he concludes saying that there is discrimination against me by the government. Just 10 more seconds, Rajdeep ji, and thereafter Mr. Jha can come in. Now I produce a very important letter which I would request your channel to close up and show. This letter is mother of all letters. This letter dated 4th October 2011. I would request the camera person to please close this up.
Tell us what it says,
Mr. Mallya writes to the then Prime. This is a letter which Mr. Mallya writes to the then Prime Minister, Mr. Manmohan Singh, thanking him that thank you sir that you gave me an appointment, and thank you despite the fact that I am an NPA, non-performing asset, you agreed that my loans would be given to me. I thank you that you directed your secretary Mr. Tekye Nair to take care of my needs. This is a letter, as you can see over here, to Dr. Manmohan Singh.
Okay,
thanking him.
Let your 10 seconds are up. Let Sanjay Jha respond. Sanjay Jha, what is very clear, and as Vijay Mallya said it today, he says he's a political football. He's caught between the devil and the deep blue sea, between the Congress and the BJP. And the fact is, he claims that he's actually ready to pay back his loans. He's ready with 15,000 crore worth of assets before the Karnataka High Court. Settle the amount is what he claims. He's being treated as a political football. You are today attacking Arun Jaitley when Mr. Jaitley claims it was just a casual conversation.
Rajdeep, this is not the time to be charitable towards India's finance minister. The truth is, if you had a meeting with Vijay Mallya, structured or unstructured, this should have been in the public domain, voluntarily coming from him and not coming from somebody whom the BJP calls as a fugitive. Now let me tell you this, don't forget, Vijay Mallya went into the Rajya Sabha in his last tenure backed by the Bharatiya Janata Party. Point number 2, and I'm glad you raised that point because I was going to say it anyway. It's very unusual that Mr. Jaitley says that I knew that he was indulging in financial skullduggery, but when he left India, I mean, the government had removed the lookout circular that they had earlier, the CBI had issued. Very, very intriguing indeed. And the third point, which is very critical here, Vijay Mallya lands in London and now he's making statements in the court. Now, his statement, if you look at it very carefully, says he had a meeting, he had offers that he made. It is very presumptuous on the part of Mr. Jaitley to use the perception of, some journalists like Rahul, who may have seen him having a brief kind of an interaction with him in Rajya Sabha, and to say that that was the only meeting we had. I will bring your attention, Rajdeep, to the press conference held by the Congress party around the March 1st or 2nd, when Vijay Mallya disappeared to London with 9 suitcases, getting a red carpet farewell given by Mr. Modi's government. The Congress press conference said that he has had meetings with a very senior leader in the BJP cabinet before he's left. We said that in a press conference, if I'm not mistaken, it was mentioned by Rajdeep Singh Surjewala himself.
Working on
so
the
I think there is a lot here which is frankly speaking very dark and insidious.
Mr. Jha, on the perception game. You are creating the perception that Vijay Mallya was tipped off. Vijay Mallya in that press conference today, or that impromptu media conference, said he had a scheduled meeting in Geneva. He intended to return to this country. He wanted to settle with the banks. You could ask the finance minister, why didn't he settle with Vijay Mallya on that day? Why was Vijay Mallya, who was ready to settle on the 2nd of March, suddenly absconded barely a week later?
Right. Well, Rajdeep, look at a couple of other cases and you'll see serial offenders who have followed the same, shall we say, procedure to go abroad. It was followed by Nirav Modi. Once again, very extraordinary. It happens just before the expose hits the public domain. Look at Mehul Choksi, Mehul Bhai. Sorry, I don't want to disturb Mr. Modi's endearing affections for him. You have Mehul Choksi getting a clearance, by the way, from the PMO, from the Ministry of External Affairs, from SEBI, who were all aware that there were charges against Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi's firms. How can you get a green chit for a citizenship? And I have some knowledge of foreign citizenship, and I can tell you, Antigua doesn't encourage drug peddlers and armaments dealers and all kinds of dangerous child trafficking people to come.
Mr. Jha, to Vijay Mallya, because Sambit Patra, there is
it is all linking up to a larger conspiracy.
1 minute. In that larger conspiracy, the question that must be asked is, why is it that lookout circular issued by the CBI after the agency registered an FIR against Mallya, Kingfisher Airlines and others in October 2015 was not acted on till March 2nd? What is it that allowed Vijay Mallya in that sense to get away? Was there a commitment that Mr. Mallya gave that he would come back? We must be told all the details. What are the details that were there? That's all.
No,
share the details. I don't think anyone is directly accusing, barring Mr. Jha at the moment, of conspiracy in a TV studio. But surely these questions must be answered.
No, the irony is the conspirators are accusing of conspiracy. But let me come to the issue proper over here. As far as Mallya is concerned, supposedly we know that everything that Mallya speaks, we presume that everything that Mallya speaks is true. Then just imagine today in the court itself, Mr. Mallya's lawyer stood up to say that the CBI, in fact, under Mr. Modi's regime, forced the banks, the consortium of 17 banks, to register FIRs against an innocent Mr. Vijay Mallya. That Mr. Vijay Mallya was quite transparent in all his transactions. That Mr. Modi's government was discriminative against Mr. Vijay Mallya, who is otherwise innocent, and forced the bank for an FIR. So by the same standard, if we are to believe Mr. Vijay Mallya's every statement today, then this is also true. That means our government was discriminative towards him. Would you believe that? We firmly believe that he is a peddler of lies. We firmly believe that he has cheated the people of India. We firmly believe he was a bluffer of all times.
According to Vijay Mallya, you made him a poster boy. There are those who have 1 lakh crore in defaults who are getting price defense deals. Those with much bigger defaults in this country are being given defense deals, and Vijay Mallya is being subjected, according to Vijay Mallya, to harassment. He claims that he's been made a scapegoat. You were looking for a scapegoat, you found one in Vijay Mallya. He's ready to come back and settle. The finance minister himself says he advised Mallya to go to the banks and settle.
Mr. Rajdeep Sardesai, first and foremost to say that we have reduced Mr. Vijay Mallya to a scapegoat while others are also existing in this country. Remember what Raghuram Rajan has in fact come out with recently. He has said that most of these NPAs, rather all of these NPAs that we are talking about today, were originative of the UPA era. They took birth during the UPA era. So naturally, Mr. Ambani that you are suggesting or the Reliance that you are suggesting, none of them became what they are under Mr. Modi's rule. They were what they were before we came to power.
Sanjay,
and they have
quickly respond as I run out of time. Quickly respond. The NPA problem, the problems of the Vijay Mallyas of the world are Congress legacies. And the Congress didn't act against them. Mr. Modi acted against Vijay Mallya. At least he's on the run today. A quick final response.
Quick one, Rajdeep. What Sambit Patra and Narendra Modi and Arun Jaitley won't tell the people of India is that Raghuram Rajan's most pertinent point in his report is that he has given a list of the biggest defaulters that he calls as fraudulent people. That means these are people who have swindled huge sums from the Indian banking system, which will make even Vijay Mallya, and we need to condemn Vijay Mallya, look like a pygmy by comparison. But Narendra Modi's government is protecting them. There is no action. There is no action taken. And why is the Prime Minister's office
there's no
not
action?
letting the people of India know who are the people figuring in Raghuram Rajan's report? And by the way, just a minute, I did interrupt you. I did not interrupt you. I did not
Raghuram
interrupt
Rajan
you.
wrote about them when Mr. Modi was PMO, but they were built in the Congress years. In that sense, Vijay Mallya is probably right. He's caught between both of you. You allowed him to build the NPAs and the BJP didn't allow him to settle.
Correction. Rajdeep.
No. Who said that we
Rajdeep,
did not allow him to settle? He was a bluff settler.
To interrupt
He has come out with all kind of bluffs and lies. He
don't
never
interrupt
wanted
me,
to settle.
Patra,
It is
and
only
Rajdeep, if
after
you
the
can let me
Economic
finish, please.
Fugitive Offenders
Rajdeep, let me
Bill
finish,
has been
because I don't want
used
this
as an
message
axe
to get
against
lost.
him, that he is shouting
Rajdeep,
that he
this is a
wants
very
to settle.
pertinent point.
He was
Don't
given
allow
umpteen number
Patra
of
to
times.
interrupt.
He was given umpteen opportunities to
Rajdeep,
settle.
this is not fair.
He did never settle. He
Rajdeep,
never
this
came
is
back
not
to the
fair.
country.
He's
Okay,
never
30
been
seconds
before the law.
Okay, Sambit, you made your point.
I need to have
30 seconds,
I need to
Sanjay
have
Jha.
my 30 seconds.
30 seconds quickly and 30 seconds on the clock.
Ghabrao mat beta. Yeah. Let me tell you two. Yeah.
Beta? Who is your beta, by the way?
30 seconds on the clock. The NPA during our time with the banking system was 2.65 lakh crores. Under Narendra Modi in 4.5 years is gone up to almost 12 lakh crores. It can only happen if Narendra Modi's government has given multiple loans that have defaulted and evergreened many of the loans.
Okay, let's leave it there, gentlemen.
Arun Jaitley have to answer. Four times they have gone up under Narendra Modi.
Well, it's required Vijay Mallya, in a sense to put all this out in the public domain. It was Raghuram Rajan yesterday who put the cat among the pigeons with his report to a parliamentary panel. Now Vijay Mallya claiming he's been made a political football between the two sides. Remember, at the end of the day, it's the taxpayer who's wondering what happens next. Let's take a break at this point. When we return, plenty more.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.